Okay, it's 7 o'clock. I'd like to call the work session to order.
Leavenworth is struggling with the same thing.
We got one agenda item, that's a policy on usage of industrial revenue bonds for residential purposes.
Before we get started on that, one thing I wanted to give you guys a heads up on. Beth Sanford asked me to pass this along to everyone. I think you guys might recall several months ago, we used to contract with Leavenworth for municipal court probation, and then we kind of switched off and started handling that in-house. Some things came up with Leavenworth's probation office, so they are going to contract with us temporarily.
We're charging double, right?
So, no, but anyway, she did want me to pass that along, so it's almost kind of a 180 from what we were doing just 12 months ago, but it will only be temporary. We're just going to try to help them out till they get on their feet for a few months, because I think, yeah, they lost a couple people in that department. So, so Beth had asked me to pass that along to you all. Okay. So I think our goal with this was to kind of have an open, interactive discussion about this incentive tool. One of the things that we've kind of mentioned to you guys before, when builders and developers come and talk to Josh and I, you know, everything is more expensive now. Interest rates are more expensive now. So one of the first questions is always, you know, what is a way we can partner to make the numbers work on this? What's a way we can make this pencil out? And industrial revenue bonds are a tool we just started using last year. How it came up last year was when the county vetoed the Fairlane Townhomes RHID. Our bond counsel had said, hey, you can look at doing an industrial revenue bond for residential rental properties. There's a few differences. RHIDs can go up to 25 years. Industrial revenue bonds can only go for 10 years. Like I'd said, IRBs can only be for rental properties. They cannot be for a subdivision where you're selling all of the homes. They can only be for rental residential properties. Another difference, and I'm not sure why this is, but in RHID projects, 20 mills are held harmless for the school district, whereas in IRBs, 8 mills are held harmless for the school district. So those are a few differences between those two projects. One of the other things that I put in the first agenda item, just a general idea of if it's a residential project that's valued at $15 million, that would be paying $232,885 in total property taxes. About 40% of that would go to the school district, about 30-ish would go to the city, and 30-ish would go to the county. It goes up to $388,000 in property taxes for a $25 million project, and $543,000 for a $35 million project. And that's based on a 135.06 mil, and that's what the county had sent out in the thing a couple weeks ago. So, are you able to pull up the words? My fault. And then, so while Josh is pulling up kind of a draft that we were working on, we included incentive policies in the agenda packet from Mission, from the United Government, some documents from Olathe, as well as something from DeSoto. So those are communities that have a lot going on. Mission's in the middle of Johnson County. The UG has a lot of residential projects going on. And DeSoto's been kind of blowing up with all of their stuff happening. So a lot of the draft that we created is based on the Mission one. So that's a little bit of a spoiler alert. But again, we can kind of go through this. Feel free to ask questions. Feel free to interject. And again, I think the goal is to kind of have an interactive discussion. So, anything you want to add, or should we just kick it off?
No, we can just kick it off. We've got, like Tim said, he's got a great draft here. A couple of things that we want a little bit more specific guidance on that you'll see how does it come up? Well, you'll see it as ready here. So those are kind of some things that we want to make sure that we're going in the right direction and the direction you guys want. But other than that, I think you set the table really well.
So one thing that is different from our draft from the 4 that we included in the work session packet, those ones were for both residential and commercial. The draft that we have up there is only for residential. So I guess we can add commercial if you guys want. The ones from Mission and the ones from the UG were both commercial, industrial, and residential. But for this, we only focused on residential. So are you guys okay with only focusing on residential for the IRB policy, or do you want it to be more overarching? Do you want us to add commercial and industrial? Or
I'm good with residential for now. If we get to the commercial, we can cross that bridge when we get to it.
yeah, we can always add more things. And what we've done on commercial projects is kind of brief the council on a case-by-case basis in executive session. So, well, for right now, then, if that's the guidance, we'll keep it as specifically for residential.
I have one question. Is
yes.
the hotel an IRB?
Yes, the hotel would be an IRB. Yes.
So we already have, and that's commercial development?
Yeah,
so.
correct. And that was kind of an example of us briefing the governing body in executive session about a prospect and their situation. So, yep. So just in general, the objectives of the policy: attract and retain quality residential construction, provide attainable housing opportunities, remove blight in high-profile areas, promote large-scale investment in Lansing, and create positive economic impact demonstrated through a cost-benefit analysis. One thing that I'll say about that third bullet point, and the 2 projects maybe that we can talk about in generalities are ones that we've talked about before. You know, I think you could look at the Bittersweet project. That's a parcel that's been owned by the city. It's kind of overgrown. It's not generating any type of tax revenue. So I think that could be an example of that third bullet point. We talked about someone wanting to build duplexes at the old trailer park on North DeSoto. I think you could consider that a blighted area. So I think projects like that kind of check those boxes. And I guess the one thing that I'll add on the 5th bullet point too, for you guys to recall, when we've done the previous IRBs for both the 14-unit townhome complex as well as the hotel, a third-party cost-benefit analysis is required. And one of the things that will look at is, even outside of what it generates for property taxes, what the incentive is, there's other ancillary revenues that would be coming into the city. Every time someone receives their utility bill, you'll look at it and you'll see a 5% franchise fee on electricity, on natural gas, on those types of things. So those are some revenues that are coming into the city. There's sewer fees. And just in general, having more people, that's more people shopping at your businesses. It helps out the community as a whole. So
that's at the cost to the applicant, right, Tim? That's not.
Correct, yes, correct, yep. One other thing, so if you guys want to go down to section 2 under scope, and actually, if you can, yeah, ooh, that's perfect. Can you highlight the sentence that begins with the authority?
Yep.
If you see that, maybe a third of the way. Right there, perfect. So again, a lot of this language is coming from Mission and the Unified Government's IRB policies. We received those from our bond counsel. So one of the reasons we like that is they've already been legally vetted. So a lot of this language, our attorneys have already approved. But I asked Josh to highlight this sentence right here. The authority and decision whether or not to grant incentives is solely based with the governing body, is entirely discretionary, and shall be considered on a case-by-case basis. The governing body is under no obligation to approve any requested incentive and reserves the right to deviate from the policies and criteria contained herein, if in the opinion of the governing body circumstances exist to warrant such deviation, so long as the deviation does not conflict with Kansas law. So
So does that protect us from any lawsuit? Like
Yeah,
if one
I-
person says they got it, but I didn't.
Yeah, I mean, and there's another reference to that in the policy, just kind of reminding people that, hey, circumstances can be different. And one example that I'll give you guys of this, I want to say like I always get goosebumps when I talk about the RHID thing from last year. But the county had a 15-year RHID policy. There was a development that went before the county that was under that, and there were still 2 commissioners who voted against it. So a policy is just a policy. It's not statute, it's not law. A policy is a policy. You guys do have the right to deviate from it. It's probably not a good idea to do that regularly, but it is just a policy that I would say. So, any thoughts on section 2?
Could you give us an example of when we would be in conflict with Kansas law?
Racial discrimination, anything along the lines that are protected statuses, that would be something. You can't, for example, if somebody were to come in here of a certain ethnic background or something like that, and you said no to all of them, and then you have 10 others that are approved of another specific ethnic background, you're going to get sued. So it's just, that's about the easiest example I can give you.
Right.
Treat everybody the same.
Yeah.
And then that last portion that I highlighted, performance agreement, we've done that before on a lot of our projects, just called a development agreement. So like when we did the CID for the Dodge dealership, we have a development agreement with them kind of outlining what that incentive was for, how often they can ask for reimbursement and those types of things. So that's something we're already doing. Scroll down a little bit. So this is where number 3 is kind of where the policy will kind of take shape. So if you guys recall the policy from the Unified Government and Mission, I think they have a baseline of 45%. So, and the way both of those ones would be structured, it was almost like there's a baseline of 45%, and then there's bonus points. So if it's a really large project, if it's in a blighted area, if it checks certain boxes, it can increase. So I left this blank to keep it, to allow for feedback from you guys if there's any ideas for baseline incentive or something like that. Again, the ones that we looked at were 45%. I don't know, were there any other ones that you recall or any other?
It started 55.
There was one that was 55?
Yeah.
And we can come back to this later if you guys want to, so.
Well, I don't think the cap should be 100. I think we should, have it something lower than that, 75, 80, something like that.
And a couple of them had a cap at 75, so that's perfect. But I'm just saying, so this is almost
Yeah.
more like what it starts
Yeah, what's the
at.
floor?
Yeah, what is the floor? So, and again, we can come back to that. But I appreciate you bringing that up, Mr. Kowaleski, just because that's one of the big things that I was kind of hoping to accomplish from this meeting. Because again, there's, I think with development interest in Lansing, I think IRBs are going to continue to be requested and continue to come up.
They're going to do their initial financial analysis off of whatever cap we determine instead
Yep.
of them coming to us expecting 100% immediately.
Well, and that's exactly right. And again, it's been tough when people will ask Josh or I in meetings, is the council willing to partner with us? Is the council willing to give a little, get a little? And we kind of shrug our shoulders and say we have to brief the council. You know what I mean? So if there is a written policy, we can say, hey, this is our IRB policy. It caps out at 75%, 70%, 80%, whatever. So
I think it would be beneficial, like you said, the IRBs have a 8 mil cap for the school district. RHIDs have a 20.
Mhm.
If we could reflect these IRBs the same way RHIDs, like giving more money to the school district. Like, I mean, it's one thing if the city's like, yeah, we're okay with not accepting taxes for 10 years. But it's another thing for another taxing entity, especially the Lansing School District
Yep.
right now. And for us to make this decision that could affect them, I'm not comfortable with that.
Yeah.
I mean, you could do something with like the number, you know, they estimate the number of family members or kids that would be in that kind of a project, and then look
Yeah.
at it that way, like if it, you know, if it's typically gonna bring in another 60 kids, well, then we need to have some kind of formula to say, they're getting this much tax.
Yeah, because the two we've done will have no
Right,
impact
right.
on the school district.
Right. These residential ones will.
Well,
Larger yeah.
yeah, for IRBs also.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We approve Monroe.
No, I'm talking about like the hotel and Fairlane. Like, there's not going to be any kids in those more than likely.
But like if you look at how our taxes are paid to the school, 20 mils off the top of that goes straight back to the state and not to the local school district. So we just gotta think about that.
One thing, this will come up a little bit in our joint work session with the school board next week. But I had mentioned to Superintendent Kabza that IRBs are coming up. Like, we're hearing about that. And I know his preference is, you know, obviously, the more property taxes that go to the school district, the better. However, he did say, you know, 8 mills is better than no development. And he did say, too, that, I mean, there's 400 kids who are out of district right now, or whatever that number is. So, I mean, even if there is a 75% incentive or whatever that number is, there is that light at the end of the tunnel in year 11 where you can say, hey, in year 11, we're going to be generating $232,000 or something like that. So, again, I think his preference would certainly be everything fully taxed, but I think he understood the need just to get things kick-started, I guess, if I can summarize his comments to me. But it sounded like, I mean, does 75% sound reasonable to everyone? And then there's some type of benefit to the city, to the county, to the school district. And that would be the max. There's still more other things, I guess, that we would go over, but that would, so it would be between 45 and 75, depending on the project.
I don't know, my personal opinion is, I like the DeSoto paragraph in there, which says quality of schools in the community is considered a strategic asset. Therefore, application for incentive will seek to hold the school harmless from any tax evasion.
So we were told by Gilmore and Bell, you can't give them the full amount, but not the city and county.
You have to give everybody an equal share?
Yeah.
Ooh, I'm not sure that's true, but
I mean, that's what the
we
attorneys have
can,
told us, right?
we can look into it.
We can bring it back up with Gilmore
Yeah.
Bell. Happy to send that email to them.
Who do we have them pay
I
a
mean,
pilot?
because I'm sure these guys aren't doing it illegally, they have a policy,
Maybe.
so.
That's kind of what I was wondering.
Yeah, payment in lieu of tax, similar to how BPU pays unified government. They don't pay any taxes, but they give them 1.5 million or something annually.
Okay.
So even if we gave them 75%, we're still getting 25% of the tax,
Correct, yeah.
divided amongst three entities.
Correct, yeah. And I think at that level, there's some give and take, but yeah.
And I think you mentioned it in previous meetings, 25% is better than nothing.
Yeah, I mean, 25% of a new subdivision is better than 3 houses a year. So, but yeah. Well, we can double check on breaking it down with Gilmore and Bell.
You know, just look
Happy
into
to do
that.
that. So,
I mean, it's tough when the school board is asking for a $30 million bond, and then, you know, if the city started doing all these, hey, come on in for no taxes, it's gonna be on residential. I mean, and like I said, maybe there's a formula we can use for what the impact on the school is.
yeah.
If it has to be divided equally, I'd like to know that too, Greg, for sure. I mean, I don't see how these guys could get away with a policy that says you gotta hold them harmless and then,
I understand that we're having the meeting tonight and it's just us, but we have an upcoming meeting with the school. Are we
Right.
gonna discuss that with them? I mean, is it on the agenda?
Mhm.
Okay, just checking.
Yep.
Wanted to make sure.
I'm sure they're gonna say something better than nothing, but at the same time, they're a key asset.
All right. Well, we'll double check on that, but I guess for right now, I'll pencil in 45 to 75, but we'll verify that with Gilmore and Bell. So on A, on the top of this page, the minimum capital investment required for consideration of IRBs, some of the other ones that we had looked at requires a $3 million investment. So if someone's just building, I don't know, 3 or 4 duplexes or triplexes, it might not qualify. At $3 million, that was what the Fairlane Townhomes one was, right?
Right about that, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, that one would have just met that minimum requirement, but $3 million was the minimum capital investment in one of the policies.
Do you think if we made it lower, it would attract somebody to maybe purchase a piece of infill property and try to use it there? Because UG's example has a bunch of stuff highlighted on it, and they have 600 or 700 properties in their land bank, which is not very applicable to us, but it's a concept that we could apply to ours.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the minimum number is, but if we make it too high, I mean,
Yeah.
it just gives, if I wanted to go out and build a duplex and I had the capital to do it, I could apply for something like this.
And you could make it by area too. I mean, some parts of the older parts of town, you can make that an area and say, you know, the minimum investment has to be this. Anything over here has to be this, or, you know. Where we want new development, we could put more,
That's a great idea.
you know what I mean?
Well, it'd have to be a lower minimum.
Right,
You're right, especially up in the north end.
yeah. But I mean,
Or
say
some lots.
somebody wants to put a townhome in one of the older houses that are being torn down or whatever. That they should be able to, you know, maybe, we should incentivize that.
Similar to what Mr. Lynch is doing over by the prison, where a
Right.
house down build that duplex.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I think we'd want to incentivize folks to do that. So,
You just want us to lower it to a million or 500,000 or what makes sense to you guys?
I don't know, what does it
I'll
cost
say
to build one of those
500K.
duplexes?
Talking about
That would be a duplex.
single
Yeah.
lots, yeah.
A lot plus the 500K, I think.
Right, it would depend on lot size.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want a minimum, we're saying a duplex?
I was just
Okay,
using an
or,
example.
Or do you want to establish a threshold of number of homes? Do you want to establish an area? Like, instead of taking, let's call it a 50 by 150 lot, do you want 150 by 150? So like 3 lots or something like that, or a minimum land area, some sort of combined?
I don't know, I think
Or
there
just-
was
or
a,
just the
matrix
straight-
by area in one of them, and I can't remember which one it was, but it had different color codes, you know, so you could say, like, the minimum is 500,000 in this kind of blighted, rundown area, you know what I mean? If we have it.
The only problem I see with that is you might see little blotches all over town of those versus if you say it's 3 million or 2 million with that number, then you get the big subdivision.
Only if you
Which
got
is what
the
we
land.
want. We want the big subdivision.
Right, but that's only if you can do that. What I'm saying, like, in certain parts of the city, you can do that. In other parts, it's maybe like Lynch just did.
Right.
Knock down
As long
an old
as, the
home.
boundaries are right, yes. Yeah.
And when you get
I-
up the north end,
I-
you're not gonna be talking about lots of, those are small houses up there.
Yeah.
And so I still think there's a push for small houses.
No, I would agree with that, and so being able to
So-
right-size it for the north
Designate
end.
it for certain areas, it can't all be the same.
Yeah.
We
be-
could try to do something
Sure.
special for Ward 1 or
There's a
the
lot of-
northeast
there's a lot of
quadrant of
older
town
homes
or
up
something.
there that,
We,
IRBs only work for rentals, right?
Correct,
Just making
yeah.
sure everybody
Yeah.
realizes that.
Yep.
so could be something like maybe age of the existing structure, or when the lot was initially established,
I
or
see a
something.
lot up there that One of
we
these
wanna make it
days,
too
or I'm
complicated.
gonna be standing up, just put it bluntly.
Yeah.
That's fair. Okay.
We don't want it, I don't think we want it to be real complicated.
Yeah.
I think like the areas we know
Mhm.
where you got older homes and people have moved out and just vacated them.
Yeah.
It's
Um,
10 years.
You know, places like that, somebody might buy and then put up a duplex or something, which would improve the city.
One more question. After the IRB, like say the 10 years is done, they could sell those
Mhm.
rentals though, right?
Yes, yep.
Okay.
And that, it would not prevent anybody from transferring ownership in the middle of that 10-year period either.
And we put something in there, that's right, they just have to give the council a heads up if they do that. So if, Josh is building multiple rental properties and 5 years into the abatement, he wants to sell it to me, we just need to get the council's blessing in order to do that.
But it's still rentals.
What's that?
It's still rentals.
Yes, it would have to be
During that
rental.
period- During that period.
And that was one of the other things that Gilmore and Bell had told us when we spoke to them. They had said, like if someone sells it for single-family homes or for purchase, that can kind of really complicate the abatement process, and then you almost have to scale it back with it pro rata or something. So like, if your abatement is $10,000 and you sell half of the parcels, then you'd be responsible for $5,000 going on. So yeah, so there is that penalty if someone does that. And I might have missed this. Was there guidance then on the number of units? Or if we're just going to say 500 in Ward 1?
Well, there's the question, like, do you want to incentivize one-off just a single home, or do you want at least an attached duplex or a ADU or a home with an ADU?
I think we
It's
should
more
leave
like
it
a
open to it,
land,
yeah.
a land issue, right? So I mean, if you take a snapshot of the city, you know where the land's at, right? We know where the folks are who are selling land. We know who bought some land.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, we can incentivize it based on the open spaces that we have.
Mhm.
And then for areas, I mean, I think the north part of town on the east side, you could have an area there that's, minimum investment is 500,000. But in these areas, the minimum investment where we know they can build a lot of townhomes.
Yeah, I would hate to back us into just one single building category instead of just kind of leaving it open to fit the space.
Okay. So just the dollar investment as estimated by the cost benefit analysis and what the person is providing to us for how much their home is essentially going to be valued at or cost to build. Cool.
That sounds good. And this is the perfect kind of feedback that Josh and I want, so we can craft something and bring it back to you guys.
All right, I got a whole list to talk about at the end.
Good. So
Send an email.
the next sentence, that's taken from missions. In order to receive the maximum incentive allowed under this policy, the minimum capital investment required is at least $10 million. So if you want to try to get close to that 75% cap, if that is in fact the cap, a person would need to invest at least $10 million. So,
Which isn't much anymore. Talking about developments.
yeah.
I mean, that's not even what it's going to take to do Bittersweet. So I mean, that 10 million is probably not a terrible number. It's pretty big though, but
Yeah. It's big, but not very big.
yeah.
In 3 years, we can get back to the policy and raise that up a little bit.
Yeah. So B, that's required by state statute. C, compatibility with adopted plans. If someone is looking at doing something like this in a large lot subdivision and they're trying to propose a bunch of triplexes, this is kind of what that would be for. We could say, hey, we don't want to do something super dense in an area with large lot subdivisions or a rural area. So that's what C is for. Transfer of ownership, E, that's what we had talked about a few minutes ago. An example of that is the car dealership that changed ownership after the CID incentive was granted. They had to come to the city council to verify that you guys were okay with that. So that's an example of that. F, I like F. Can you guys read that? Whatever attorney came up with that, I like.
I think that was in DeSoto's.
I like that one. And then G, the applicant will be asked to demonstrate that without the requested incentive, the project or certain features thereof cannot be constructed without an appropriate return on investment. And that's something we do a lot of right now, but just putting that on paper so it's in the policy. Anything on any of those items before we go to, oh, sorry, what?
I mean, for me, that's so hard to argue for those guys, to me. You know what I mean? It's like, aren't you getting the rent from those forever? Like, as soon as you rent them in year one or year two, if you start renting them, you're already pulling down rent and tax abatement from every single. So that's going to be a hard one to. If they come in with, oh, it's impossible, there's no way. It's like, show me the numbers, man.
I mean, we've,
And they got to show you the.
yeah, and we've asked people for that before. We've passed it on to the council before, but again, it's putting it on paper, so. So this one, this is also where the policy kind of takes shape a little bit. That first paragraph, that kind of talks about that baseline almost, that we had talked about 45. So in that scenario, if it's 45, we'd still be getting over half of the property taxes. Then year 11, we'd be getting the full amount.
I think the bonus one's kind of strange. Like, I think bonuses should be based off of if you're breaking ground and actually building versus the amount you're putting into the development. Because, I mean, we have a lot of projects that don't break ground. And so I think it's more important for a bonus for you to break ground versus how much you say or
Yeah,
promise to invest in our community.
yeah.
I don't disagree, but one thing I read that kind of touches on your point is if we plugged in a clawback provision that was
Yeah.
tied to scheduling milestones.
And I think we have that on either the next page or
Okay.
the fourth page. But that's exactly right. And it's discouraging when we go through all of this work and things slow down. You know what I mean? We obviously wish Monroe Manor would start putting up houses. We wish the commercial project in Town Center would get started, but yeah. Major project bonus. Again, I think this one is taken from the Unified Government's policy. So again, if it's a pretty substantial project, there is a level of bonus there. So again, you could potentially add 5, 10, or 15% to 45, but it would still cap out at potentially 75%. So.
You just need to change the numbers, what we talked about on A, right?
Say that again.
You just need to change what's highlighted for A based off the numbers we've talked about.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. B is kind of what we were talking about with blighted areas. So I would consider that areas that have been overgrown, underdeveloped in town for an extended period of time. Those two projects I referenced a little bit ago, I think those would fall into this. But I think it's always nice when prominent areas, when there's movement there. It's kind of discouraging when a property right on the corner of DeSoto and Eisenhower is vacant for 25 years. So, any thoughts on the target area bonus?
I mean, I like it. I think it would encourage development, like Gene said, in the northeast or on the infill lots. I don't know what the percentage should be, but I definitely like it in there.
We might need a map based on the comprehensive plan to identify where our targeted areas are.
Mhm.
Because if, like my house is on the outside of town, like, is it grass around my house? Yes, but like, is that in town? No.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we can do some type of map showing targeted areas and do that. C, targeted housing type. It's the goal to create attainable housing opportunities in the community. An abatement adjustment of blank may be awarded based on the commitment of the applicant to make dwelling units of various sizes and price categories for residents. The applicant should review Lansing's housing study to gauge a better understanding of the types of housing needed in the community.
I think we should put two numbers in there, one for single family and one for multifamily. And I don't know which one we weigh more, probably single family, if they wanted to build some single family homes, but
They can't use it in an RFP though.
if it's a rental.
If it's a rental, they could, but yeah.
For 10 years.
It'd have to be a single-family
Yeah,
rental.
Yes, you could.
Yeah.
build
Yeah.
a single-family
Yeah.
rental.
Yeah.
Probably not a new
No.
construction, but
Tip-
if they did.
Which is doing on Kansas Avenue. It's gonna be a duplex.
In some ways, I would almost wonder if we would want the number to be higher for multi.
Okay.
Does that,
Yeah, I just think there should be two different numbers in there because you can build two different things.
yeah. Okay.
Typically, these type of clauses come with some sort of reference to area median income, saying somebody is making, we promise that we're going to rent this to somebody making 30% or 50% or 60% of the area median income, all of which is roughly 30, 60, and 80% or $80,000 for us for a single person.
Do that again?
So there's a standard for attainable housing that says you take your area median income, and then you take, with these type of things, the developer will promise that for the length of this, they will only rent it to people making 30% or 60% or 80% of the area median income to kind of make it more affordable or make it, more attainable to people like our cops and our teachers, and not necessarily just kind of anybody who walks in off the street. It's not been our practice before, but that is one of the things that you see.
Or, I mean, you
build
could-
52 units based on that same thing.
Or I was gonna say too, I think I've seen where,
Right.
like, say if it's a development of 100 units, you could say 20 of those units need to meet this threshold, and the other 80 can meet whatever, so.
So like a retirement community, like say this could be applied for 55 plus for restricting.
Technically, yes.
Yeah.
Those exist. Yes, those types of developments exist. Yes.
Tim, I thought you were talking more price.
That's more where I was going with my thing, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, so you could say like 20% of the units in the development need to meet 80% of the moderate household income or something.
Or we set that. Yeah, we set that price point. Right.
So,
One thing you might consider as well along those lines, Tim, is that I've seen in some communities where somebody wants to build a really expensive development. But then you run into sometimes where the cities will say, hey, but you gotta make so many of attainable, affordable housing. It gets really awkward because then they're carving out little tiny apartments, which will then be in, let's say, $1 million condominiums. Then you got these little carve outs that are still $300,000 because it's based on percentages. So what I saw one developer at least suggest, but it was turned down, was what if I buy an infill and build like 8 units over here to satisfy this proportionality thing, which might be more attainable, frankly, in an 8-unit, 10-unit, whatever development in another area, that you give them credit for something like that. That might be something you consider.
You're talking about like Tudor Drive in Leavenworth. Tudor Drive has fourplexes next to $300,000 homes, which doesn't, every time I drive through there, I look at it and I think that makes absolutely no sense. Because you got a fourplex, a fourplex, a fourplex, and $300,000 homes down the rest of the road.
Yeah.
Well, it makes no sense whatsoever. Drive down Tudor Drive and Lumber sometime, off of Tonganoxie Road.
That is my house.
Oh. Sorry about you. Is it really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I'm accurate though, aren't I?
But we-
I've lived there now for 15 years. I didn't know. Yeah, 15 years. My parents live right around the corner. I didn't know about the fourplexes for at least 5 years.
Really? Well,
Yep.
Okay.
My only concern with rental restrictions is we've seen like so many other places in the United States, rental restrictions cause failure,
Yeah.
causes people not to want to be developers. And so I would just say caution there.
And we don't have to have that in there if that's the direction. We don't have to have anything about low to moderate income or anything like that. We can just kind of keep it as X for single and X for multifamily, but we can stay away from any type of, is it LMI or whatever that terminology is, so, okay.
No, like, so they apply through the state for tax credits, right?
For like
this-
Lytech, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
So like that
yes.
apartment complex is
Yeah,
not one of
that was
our
through the state.
incentives. It's
Yep.
a state incentive,
Yes,
even though we have to kind of provide a letter
Yes.
saying, yes,
Correct.
we like the idea. Okay.
yep. So, yeah, I mean, if
that-
someone wanted to do
That
that,
is a way to get attainable housing, which
Yeah.
we've done twice now.
Yes.
At least since I've been on the council,
yep.
on those two apartment complexes.
They can do that, and that's a project through the state. That's a really good point. Yep.
There's other options for attainable housing. It's called a tax credit, but state tax credits, I don't know what the program's called.
Low-income housing tax credit.
Right. The Kansas low-income housing tax credit doesn't exist anymore. Hopefully it comes back, but doesn't exist right now. But the federal still does. The moderate income housing project is also, funding is scarce right now. So, but that's far beyond our purview. We just deal with the things on the ground as they are, or
Yeah.
the developers do. So,
I'm just saying that there's a way.
yep.
Ancillary benefit, some of the things that crossed my mind on this one, I know this wasn't an IRB, but I do think there's going to be a benefit on Monroe Manor once Pebble Beach connects, North Pebble Beach to South Pebble Beach. The person who's looking at doing duplexes at the old trailer park, eventually Progress Drive would connect to DeSoto. I think that would be a transportation benefit. Trails, playgrounds, if a developer upgraded a sewer line. I mean, I think there are benefits that developments can do that would benefit the city as well. So those are some of the things that crossed my mind.
What about using local builders,
So
constructing, that kind of stuff as a benefit?
So I've got that on the next page, but
Okay.
yes.
I got that,
Yes.
I have that wrote down too, so.
Yep. If you want, maybe scroll down to that, just so we can show them while we're talking about that. That's toward the end. Yep. So see right there. Because I remember, Mayor, I think you had brought that up. I remember Mr. Studnicka brought that up to me once last year. So absolutely, if there's anything like this, we'd certainly want them to use.
Would we,
This is,
would we
that
give them an
doesn't
incentive?
incentivize it.
Yeah.
It doesn't incent, that's true. That's
Yeah,
true.
what I had wrote down,
We can, but sorry.
I would say, when I read through all these, the one thing I didn't like was they talked about, all these variations of diverse spend, but then didn't talk about any local spend. And what I had wrote down, for us, maybe it's 3% if they use a Lansing business, and then 2% if they use a Leavenworth County business. Just try to,
Yeah.
try to give them that carrot a little bit.
I think that's good feedback, and then hopefully that helps Lansing Lumber and helps out.
Lina
Yeah.
Weaver, and there's a couple competent civil engineering firms beyond Lansing, within Leavenworth County. I
Yeah.
just think there's some opportunity there to throw a bone to a lot of people.
So we can move that up to that previous section where we were just at, and we can try to add a percentage point to that and bring that back to you guys, so.
I mean, it's probably listed under ancillary, but, yeah, I mean, it's fine. to
Yeah.
list those.
Okay. Community benefit adjustment, while Josh is writing that down, community benefit adjustment. This is something that we had talked about, I think at this level, but also I think this comes up at LCDC meetings also. Anytime there's some type of incentive granted, we want that person to be a good community partner. We want them to join the Chamber of Commerce, join LCDC, sponsor something at the school, whatever. We want them to be community partners. I don't have a percentage point on that, but again, I think that's the goal, is to get people to be a part of the community if they're utilizing a program like this.
Do we need the word Lansing if we're just, like, I think it's kind of redundant if we say within Lansing and Leavenworth County, it would just be within Leavenworth County.
So I think if you're talking about the local materials one,
Yeah.
what was crossing my mind on that was, if it's materials, there might be some things you could get from Lansing Lumber, but there might be other things you'd have to go, whether it's to Home Depot or I think Tonganoxie has a lumber yard or something too. So I mean, I certainly think we want to encourage Lansing businesses the most, but if it's not available at Lansing Lumber, I guess, as long as they're doing it in Leavenworth County, I think that's okay. Okay. All right. Commencement of abatement. I think this comes from state statute, so nothing crazy there. And if you guys want to read 6, I'll give you a minute or two to read that.
How much is the application fee?
I think we put $2,500. Is that, yeah, we put $2,500. So.
I guess I just don't understand, like, why we would charge an application fee. And I know there's a lot of work, sorry, everyone, but like if we're offering a tax abatement, why are we asking for an application fee?
There are some costs on our end, like we have to I think we have to publish things in the paper for this. Not as much as other incentives, but.
Didn't we just get rid of the paper?
Oh yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
Gilmore and Bell is
Yeah,
They're
and
expensive.
And our
billable
bond counsel.
attorney
too.
hours.
Yeah.
What, billing every 6 minutes? No, what are you
Yeah.
doing?
We still have to publish things in the paper at times when we're directed to.
Yeah.
So if it's something that we're directed to publish by the council, then.
Was
we have to publish it.
Was there application fees in the other policies?
Yes, and so there, I want to say there was one that was less, but there might have even been a couple that were more.
The UG.
4,000. Yeah, I saw a couple of 4,000s.
Yeah, I think also if it's 2,500, that shows you're serious, I guess. So
It keeps a lot of people from just kicking tires and then having Josh run around his staff doing a bunch of stuff, then forget it. At least if they put 2,500 down there, showing at least some interest.
yeah, there's a level of legitimacy if they're doing
There
that.
goes $2.5 million, 2,500 is nothing.
Is that like the standard compared to Baser and Tongany for application fee?
I'm not sure what theirs was. Do you remember what DeSoto's was?
I do not.
So we didn't look at Baser and Tongi. We looked at DeSoto. We have Olathe's. I know Josh found Overland Parks, Mission, the UG. There was Russell, Kansas. I saw you found one from Russell, Kansas, Bob Dole's hometown.
Overland Park was 2,500, and then service fees on top of that, and things like that. So
Did we
an administrative fee.
Did we charge anybody for the RHID application? or-
I think we charged $1,000 for that,
Yeah.
which in hindsight
Was low.
that was probably low. we were kind of learning, but yeah, 1,000 was probably low for the RHID.
Just to be clear, like, that 1,000 got sucked up by one paper notification and then some. So, like, and we had to do that at least twice.
And that's where it goes back to the charter ordinance we talked about last week, like one big ordinance when you're publishing something super long and with an aerial exhibit, it adds up. So absolutely. But yeah. Okay. So section 6 though. No feedback on that. So this next section, it's a lot of what is required of them. So continued compliance with everything, clawbacks and all of that stuff. So I'll give you a second to read this. If you want to go down slightly so they can read the second part of it too.
Any of the other cities had any issues with this area? Continued compliance and all that?
I didn't hear the, what was the
Any of
question?
the other cities like Michigan and UG, have they had any issues with continued compliance?
They didn't bring up anything about this section, so I'm not aware of any issues with.
Gilmore and Bell referenced these type of clauses in our IRB discussions in the past. I would assume that that's due to learned experience, and also it's just protection for us, just in case, break glass in case of emergency. We will work with the developer as much as possible, but if the worst comes to the worst, we need to be able to pull the plug.
So like our developer gets a felony, we don't want to work with them anymore, like we could break the glass.
So that's a good example. I don't know what would happen. I guess where I was thinking with this is kind of what we talked about earlier is if someone tells us, hey, this is going to be all rentals so he can utilize this incentive, and then in 4 years he starts selling them off, that changes the calculus on this, and then we can kind of revoke it.
Or he says 20 units and he builds 2 and then just kind of like walks away from the project.
Yeah,
Why
exactly.
Why are we abating
What do you do
this?
in that situation though? Do you deduct like the rest of the taxes he owes out of the house price amount if they're trying to sell houses and it hasn't been the 10-year tax
I
abatement?
think we'd be able to revoke the incentive, so he'd be paying full taxes on it. So I don't know
Terminate it based on.
yeah, we could terminate it. I don't know the example about the felony though. Greg, I'll defer to you
Well,
on.
I think there's 2 questions kind of. It seems like it's part of the application process. If you have some, let's say, unscrupulous folks, you would probably, depending on what it is, you might just steer away from them. However, if the follow-on question is, what if they get a felony during?
Yeah.
Then I think you'd have to do it on a case-by-case basis. I'll give you an example. In my hometown, there was a particular developer that kind of got sideways with the city on some projects, and then ultimately ended up pleading guilty to some felonies in federal court. And they basically just revoked his ability to develop in the city, or the city would have nothing more to do with him if he was part of a development group, things of that nature. So I think that you really have to address it on a case-by-case basis, because is it something that's associated with what's going on, or is it something totally unrelated, to the development, building, and construction in general, those type of things. I think you just have to probably just have an executive session to discuss, and then figure out what you want to do, whether it's related or not unrelated. So
I just have seen that in Florida, you know, developers getting money from people buying houses from them, and then their house isn't developed. The developer's in jail.
One,
Yeah, I've seen it before, so I'm like, what do you do?
Yeah. I think, again, it would be case by case. I think you'd have to look at the facts. What was the, again, if it's mere allegations, I think you'd have to wait till it plays out to see if it sticks, so to speak. But, yeah, just case by case, I think. But again, if there are convictions, things like that, and there's been other cities that make complaints or they've shut them down before, I think it's all fair game to say, no, we're not gonna bring that in here, so.
I think something else that I think is in the some of the language for the CID, especially if they are not maintaining the property, and so this will all be for sale, or sorry, for rent. If the developer is not maintaining the land, like why are we giving you a tax abatement when your houses in the common areas do not meet our standards? And we have our regulations, and so then we could say you're in violation of this. You are not in compliance with this policy, with the IRB documents. We could pull it then too. So a couple of different
We would
examples.
enter into an IRB with someone, but then we would also have to enter into a development agreement where we
Yes.
would lay out even tighter parameters.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is a performance agreement. You're
Correct,
using
yep.
the same
Right.
term.
Yeah. So clawbacks, Mrs. Hatcher, this is kind of what you were talking about. So if we go to all this trouble to partner with these people, and it's been 3 years, we can pull the plug. So,
I mean, I think we should be hearing back that there's some kind of progress within 1 year, whether it be soil samples, like, there
Yeah.
has to be some communication. I don't want us to just not have communication for 3 years.
yeah,
And
that's a good
aren't they
point.
also losing money? Tim had mentioned that before, where the clock's running, and it's,
So
and
that-
their
that-
incentive is to make sure that they are getting.
That's another, so on RHID, it's starts when the gavel comes down. On IRBs, it starts when you issue the bonds, and you don't issue the bonds until construction is complete. So that's kind of another difference. So the incentive kind of doesn't start until they say, my project's done, it's fully on the tax rolls.
I don't know, maybe I missed it, but is it to have a potential part of the clawback thing where you could say that if you're not starting, your performance is that in here? Because if it is, I must have missed it, but could you claw back percentages if, hey, the quicker you get started, perhaps the percentage is
Yeah,
up, where
so
the-
like a reduce,
Yeah, if you're
bonus
saying you're
or
gonna start in a
something.
year.
Yeah.
But now you're 2 years in, maybe you lose 2%, 5% or something that's built in. It's like, hey, come on, let's go. Because otherwise you're losing money on the other side too. I don't know. I mean, just throwing it out there.
Good idea.
we can
I-
ask
I
Gilmore
like
and
that.
Kelly about that.
Good point.
Yeah.
Well, the sales tax starts immediately, though.
Correct, yeah. Yep. The one thing where we'll double check on Gilmore and Bell about that, when we do the resolution of intent, I think we put in percentages before it starts, you know what I mean? So that's where I don't know if you can change those percentages after the resolution but before the ordinance. So, but that's I like that idea.
And again, ultimately, when you keep hearing Gilmore and Bell, they're the experts in all this. So they'll have all the answers before you do anything to set that solid policy.
Yeah. Or they'll say, we'd recommend you don't do that, or, yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
They like to recommend that you don't do that. At least for me.
So one of the things I had told you guys, ours is very similar to Mission's. Mission had something in theirs called the origination fee schedule, and I wanted to go back and see if that was in our one for the Fairlane townhomes, and it is not. So, let's see. Almost on the topic of like, similar to,
Like an amortization.
kind of, but it almost is additional money that goes to the city based on the IRB amount. Is either Mission or the UG, I'm sorry. Maybe it was the UG.
Here you go. No, you're right, mission. Here we go. Origination fee schedule. First 10 million. So 0.25%.
Is it 0.025 or 0025?
0025.
So that'd be $25,000 on top of that. So I don't know how that works. That's something we can ask Gilmore and Bell about. But this hasn't been in any of the documents they've provided us. But this was something that was in missions. So we will ask Gilmore and Bell about that.
And we'd need
Yeah,
to adjust
commercial
this
and
based on our
multifamily.
minimal.
What's that?
I think we would have to adjust this, it says multifamily.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
It's blocked, so I think we would have to adjust this depending on our minimal that we set this policy as.
Yeah, yeah, we could do that. But we'll double check with Gilmore and Bell because this wasn't anything that they had ever mentioned to us, and then we kind of stumbled upon it in some of the policies they sent us. So. And then if you want to go back to 9 on the Word document. So we're coming down the home stretch. Sales tax exemption, we've talked about how that's kind of another really nice benefit of this program. So Lansing sales tax rate is 9.4%. So if you're purchasing lumber, you're not paying sales tax on that lumber. So again, we talked about trying to keep it in Lansing, Leavenworth County, but that talks about that sales tax exemption for the IRB program.
Is that the whole amount, or could we adjust that, or does it have to be the full amount?
So the way it's done, it's like we have to reach out to the state, and the state gives us a form that we can then give to the builder, and it says they're sales tax exempt for that project. So I don't think we'd be able to do it for only part. I don't think we'd be able to do that.
I think that's right. It's across the board.
Yeah, yeah. This is one where, technically, I don't want to say the city's not out anything, but it's a little bit different from property taxes, you know what I mean? So this one, I don't think people seem to have as much heartburn with. And then number 10, we had a similar sentence earlier, but again, just referencing your guys' authority on this. So if there is a project that absolutely knocks your socks off, or if there's a project that you absolutely think is terrible, you guys have the right to deviate from the policy. So you guys are the supreme authority on these types of things. So probably not recommended to do that all the time. But if there are extraordinary circumstances, the council could veer from the policy. So.
Yeah, specifically if it doesn't kind of fit into our categories perfectly or whatever. And I'd love to see somebody come in and ask for an IRB just for the sales tax. I mean, that's what I'd like to see.
Slam dunk, we're done, let's go.
That's-
Next month.
That's a big bonus.
Next
I mean,
week.
I don't,
Yeah.
if you think about it. I mean, I think what we're like on a $25 million project, you're saving like $4.5 million.
Yeah.
That's a big chunk. It's like a fifth of your cost, right off the top.
And again, if you're, depending on who your developer is, that may go for your infrastructure cost, or a lot of them, if you're buying all the materials for all your pipe and your sewers.
It doesn't save you on the plumbers,
Oh, no, no,
bricklayers,
yeah.
you know what I mean? And that's a lot of the cost too. But yeah, absolutely, the materials, it'd save you a lot of money on it. Save you 9% on the materials. So, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I've got, if there's nothing else on the authority of the governing body, I just thought of something. We've ran into, a couple of weeks ago, we brought back before you guys, hey, can you authorize the mayor, or I think it was authorizing the mayor to be able to sign on these things. I've seen other clauses in policies that specifically say either the city manager administrator or the mayor are authorized, once you guys approve the big thing, to take care of the knick-knack type things of something comes up and we need to extend a contract or something like that, that the mayor or the city admin would have that authority to get past that last, that last 5%. The 95% was already approved by you guys, big picture. Is that something that you guys would be okay adding in, or is that?
You're talking about like, so we have a vote on something, we say, yeah, we're doing that,
Right,
and then the document comes up later.
right.
We already approved, but I can already sign those, right? So what are we asking for? That Tim or I can sign? Or-
Either or just you. I don't. It just provides some flexibility so that we don't need to come back every single time. Hey, the contract needs to be extended another 3 months, 6 months, whatever.
What
it
did the
may be.
last one say? I bet we just did one. Tish?
I'm kind of thinking,
That was only real estate?
Yeah.
what
That
I was
was
thinking
just
of
for the
was
town
That
center.
example is kind of like almost suspending authority. I mean, is there some kind of policy you'd want in there that the mayor can sign a document, or Tim can sign a document, without having to come back and wait for a month or a special meeting or something like that, if it's something that's just kind of benign and something that's just perfunctory that needs to get done?
I
Not-
guess that would depend on what's in that document.
Well, true.
Like, is there extra tax abatement in that document to get this contract passed, or is it just extending
Right,
dates?
that's what I was saying, like, had the governing body already approved something in a meeting,
Right.
and then a document later needs signed based on our approval of the topic, whatever it is, contract, whatever. Like, Deffenbaugh or something, yeah, we all approved the rates of Deffenbaugh in the new contract. Well, somebody's gotta sign it, right? So,
And that'll. Okay.
I mean.
We
I'm
can-
always
we can
signing
make
stuff
that- we
anyway.
can make
Maybe
that-
I'm doing it illegally, but.
We can make that part of the agenda item
Just
as
be
well,
videoed,
but
yeah.
just authorize. Yep.
Yeah, well, Tish, between Tish and the lawyer,
We've already agreed to do.
you guys should figure that out. I mean, it's probably some language or a ordinance or
As far as.
whatever.
As signing something later, you can be designated to sign any and all documents that are,
Approved by the governing body.
yeah,
That's what
that
I'm,
are
It's
for this particular thing, yes.
Okay.
I think Ms. Hatcher, again, I know you're from Ms. Hatcher, if it's something that's a deviation from what has been, approved, then I think to your point, then something would have to come back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure, like, the mayor, the city, and the council are all protected and,
Or aware.
yeah, aware, and
well, that's why I said.
you might not
if
be
it
the
had been
mayor in the
approved-
next 10 years. We never know what you plan to do, and like,
Yeah.
do I trust the next mayor? I don't know.
I'm not sure that's what you're saying, if we all agree.
We already voted on it, and you guys said
You're
yes,
saying
and a document comes in.
If 95% of it was agreed on and something else came up.
Yeah, I
can
mean,
you
I
go
don't
ahead
know
and
about
sign
that.
it?
Yeah.
If it's not a great idea, it's not a great idea. That's I'm not tied to this.
Yeah.
It's something that just came out. So we can address those
We
things
all
when it
agreed on
comes up.
75% on an incentive or something, and then, 2 weeks later, the dude's haggling and trying to haggle us down to
Well,
73%. I'm not gonna.
That
sign
was
it.
well, yeah. So that wasn't precise. That was not at all the idea of what I was trying to go for. It was just so I was thinking specifically about the land sale to the hotel. The title company came back and said, hey, we need to see a document that said the mayor was specifically authorized to sign. And so then we came back to you guys 3 weeks ago, and said, hey, will you authorize for this purpose? And so those type of documents, nothing that changed the underlying structure of the policy or the agreement that we were going to have. So
No.
anyway,
But I mean, we could just put some kind of, I don't know, policy or whatever, charter, ordinance, whatever, having me sign for anything the governing body has already approved.
Typically, when they come
Pretty neat.
through and they're asking for different things, different projects and things like that, that's when we can say that the mayor, we authorize the mayor to sign any and all documents referring to that specific project. anything else in it, no, then it has to come back.
And we
Maybe
do
that- so
we
it
do
sounds
that
like-
when we're reading that anyways.
Sounds like my idea was redundant, so sorry, my apologies.
Like we normally do that in the notes when we're reading that, saying, and the mayor is authorized to sign, you know, when I read that out.
Yeah,
you guys all
just
say
don't
yes.
go out on a shopping spree with land and sell land, okay, that's all I ask.
How much land do we have now? I think it's like 17 acres or something. Pretty small.
We might get the prison land, the 57.
You're right. You're right. And I'd love to sell that if I could.
And this is a good way to kind of reaffirm what we were talking about at the beginning. Any type of commercial or industrial request, we will still bring to you guys. We can discuss economic development and trade secrets in executive session. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I do like some of the incentives they had on the other ones for industrial, like how many jobs does it bring in? If it brings in 40 jobs, you're gonna get X. If it brings in 10 jobs, you're getting this, you know? I mean, so I don't know, that's something we might wanna consider adding to the policy later. I mean, I know we're working on this piece now for the housing part, because we got people knocking on the door for these kind of things. But industrial and commercial, I think would be worthwhile to put a policy together for that, as maybe addendum to this or whatever.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Mr. Kowaleski, did you say you had other things that
We
you?
covered
did we
them all.
cover them all?
Knock 'em
Move
out.
through the document, we're good.
Tim, I have a question. You mentioned a couple times that there's a possibility of some duplexes or some type of property up on North DeSoto.
Yeah.
Have we discussed that? I don't remember hearing about
So he had submitted that letter stating an interest in an IRB, and I put that in the council. It was the last page, but I had put that in the last council packet. And then I think that will be on the planning commission's agenda, the planning side of it. That'll be on the planning commission's agenda maybe this
Maybe
month.
September.
Maybe September?
Yes.
So yeah, that's one of the things. And then, yeah, the Bittersweet project that we had talked about a couple of times before, the parcel that's right by the pool that we own, that's just kind of overgrown. So those are the ones that, you know, we've had people inquire about. So, you know. I will say, I think, especially with the Chiefs coming to the area and all the stuff going on in the Legends, like, I think we're gonna continue hearing these types of requests and things. I think it's going to be more prevalent. So.
Anybody else got anything on it? No?
Do you?
Yeah, this will be brought up with the school board next week. And they'll be up to date on where we're at.
I do have another question. Like, do we know how many abatements we have out right now? Like, I know we have 2 IRBs, a CID, we have an RHID. I'm just thinking, like, you know, our first project shouldn't look like its last. Like, we have a couple people come in asking for 75%. You know, we get loaded, have so many projects in the works.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying we need necessarily a cap, but I do think that, like, I'm not offering the first person for a full, you know, full tax abatement such as the last project. Like,
Yeah, that's a good point.
especially with the Chiefs coming.
Yeah.
Like, eventually we're gonna need a cutoff. Like,
I know, so Mr. Clemens and I talked about that, I remember last year, and this was just 2 guys spitballing. And if I remember, like, one of his ideas was, it was kind of like, if the housing study says we need 500 units of housing, how many units have we seen so far? And so if Monroe Manor is 194, if both phases of Fairlane townhomes are 26, if the apartment complex is 50, that puts us at 270. So in that example, you'd be able to say, okay, maybe there's 230 units we still need or something like that. That would be one example that, like I said, it was just kind of us spitballing last year, but I know that was one of the things that he had mentioned. But you're right, like, I think part of the hope is to get things kick-started so we don't have to do this in 4 or 5 years, you know. But
Yeah, and what, did the housing study, how far out did that go? It said over the next, what years?
It was 20.
I don't remember the time frame.
I would say
We can double
15,
check
20.
that, yeah.
Yeah. I guess what I'm saying is that we're already about half. We're already about halfway there with the number of.
Oh, halfway, yes. Yeah.
in
About 3 years old and yeah.
3 years. So, it's growing fast. So, I mean, the incentives are what's driving a lot of it, I'm sure. But, I mean, even if it slowed down, I mean, over the next 10 years, we could still, use.
It's a lot better than 3. 270 is a lot better than 3.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we want to get things moving, for sure.
Well, things will get things moving. Right? I mean, once you get more retail in here.
Yeah.
Once the Chiefs move in, there's a lot of things that are gonna drive people this way.
The retail will help a lot, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So our next meeting's with the school district, and I know we already talked about, but like what we saw in the contract with protecting the school district in any way, we could have that information before our meeting with the school board.
Yep,
That'd be
we can
dope.
ask Gilmore and Bell about that. And I haven't brought all of this to the school board as a whole, but I'd spoken to the superintendent that this is an incentive we continue to hear about, so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and you can also do it the reverse way too. Is have them do an assessment and say, hey, the max that we'd like to give up, right? I mean, we'd be good with, 25% of the taxes. If the school's good with it, then we want to protect the school, but I think the school needs to tell us, kind of what their threshold would be too, when these come up.
Yep.
Great meeting.
Anybody else?
Thanks for sharing that information. It was great.
Chris, did you have anything at the end? I went around the horn. All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.